house on Marston Street, there are 7.5 podcasts.
Welcome back to another episode of Spawnography. I am one of your hosts, Pierce Sliden, pronouns they, them, here with, as always,
The house on Marston Street, George Marston, pronouns they, them, or she, her. You know what's funny? I almost did it in a Boston accent. The house on Marston Street, which is where I'm from. We'll talk about that because this is some funny coincidences.
We'll get into it.
But first, Pierce, how the heck are you? It wasn't that long ago since we recorded, but it feels like, as it always does in our current timeline, like it's been 95 years and infinity things have happened.
Yeah, I mean, everything's bad.
Yeah, it's tough.
But there are good things. We got Zoran. Seattle's got a Democratic Socialist mayor now.
Yeah, we talked about Zoran.
So there's that. He's been naming a bunch of his deputy mayors, and they seem as good as I could hope for deputy mayors, I suppose. The big sticking point right now is Jessica Tisch, the police commissioner, because there's a few things there. She's the daughter of a billionaire. And then also that she's Jewish. And the one thing Zoran is coming up against in terms of attacks is that he's anti-Jewish.
Anti-Semitic.
And it's mostly just racism.
Right. No, I know it's a lot of dog whistling and stuff. And yeah, I also know he's said a lot of things that are not in line with the way they try to paint him as an anti-Semite.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing being like the Intifada thing. And also, too, the reality is we've never had a mayor so young that also had everything that they ever did on the internet. And I get it. He's got a famous mom and, he's been an AD.
What's it like working and living under Shakira law?
Well, it turns out that my hips, they're not allowed to lie anymore. My hips were lying all the time.
So they took away your hips' First Amendment rights.
Also, no fighting.
Wow.
So.
Wow. Well, Pierce, I know you're a big Street Fighter, and I love playing Street Fighter. And therefore, I have that. I think maybe you'll understand what I'm about to say. Believe it or not, I am a white person, if you couldn't tell from everything I've ever said and done on this podcast.
I don't see color.
No, me neither. At least not on my face because it's so white. I'm like Larry Bird white, like clear white. Larry Bird and I, same shoe size.
Really?
Yeah. You can see a bronzed pair of his shoes at Faneuil Hall in Boston, Massachusetts.
Wow, we're really getting
apparently
heavy
is not
into
far from
the events of these two issues.
The house on Marston Street, yeah. Well, we'll talk about it a little more in just a minute, but so when I was young, and maybe this isn't just a white thing, it's also like a male raised kind of socialization,
sure,
masculine socialization thing. But for years, I was positive that if ever a fight broke out around me, I would just have the innate like martial arts skill. Or like if I had to land a plane.
It's because we grew up watching Ninja Turtles and stuff. Like
that's fair.
And it's because
I did watch the Karate Kid infinity times.
And like that, Three Ninjas, Surf Ninjas. Yes, we were basically raised.
I had an orange belt.
We were basically raised to think that, like, 1, karate, not that hard. 2, did I get lessons? I feel like every kid that grew up vaguely in the 90s took karate
80s,
lessons.
90s, it was like
at some point.
It was that or soccer practice, really.
Yeah. And then, because even I took karate lessons for like a little while. Uh,
I had private karate. I took kung fu and Shaolin kung fu specifically,
wow.
which was probably some bullshit, but it was a
Well,
Chinese man who was
that
teaching
was
me.
taught by the Wu-Tang Clan.
Correct. And as famously as we all know, they are not something to be trifled with,
Mm,
as the song famously says. Um, but yeah. Uh, anyway, I forget where I was going with all of that, but yeah, Larry Bird and I, same shoe size. I compared at Faneuil Hall, and we wore the exact same size All Stars. So there
cool.
you go. Important factoid dropping little George lore.
In podcast news, I went to see How Did This Get Made live.
Oh, fuck yes.
Super fun.
Nice.
Super fun.
One of my other favorite movie podcasts is doing live shows soon. What went wrong?
Oh,
Very good
nice.
show.
They covered what do you call it? Monkey Bone.
No shit. Wow.
So,
How about that?
and that was fun.
Henry
And then,
Selick, I believe.
yeah, poor Henry Selick. Um, that poor man never gets enough credit. The thing that the one Henry Selick factoid I like to drop is that he did the animation of the whale in The Life Aquatic.
Great.
Yeah. Anyway, then last night I went to this month's That Show, hosted by Chris Gethard,
Oh, okay.
friend of the pod, and he had shared with me something that he'll be doing soon that is, related to what we do. Um,
He's gonna direct Spawn.
yeah, that'd be amazing. Uh, and I also saw Keith Haskell, who I ran the marathon with, and he
Oh
sent
yeah.
me this very fun little. It's a shoebox. It's a
Oh, that
tiny shoebox, but it's a
that's
gift. It's like a nice little
cute.
gift card as like a thank you that he got me.
Oh,
It's really
that's
nice.
nice. That's
Uh,
great.
Friend of the show, Grace Freud performed a little bit, which was
Oh
fun.
wow. Love
Um,
Grace.
yeah, so it was cool. She made it was sandwich night, which sandwich night is a
Okay.
traditional. It was a Chris Gethard show thing that then just kind of kept going. Where the
Right. Where you
Wednesday
eat a
before,
sandwich.
well, well, yeah, but the Gethard show used to be on Wednesday nights. So the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, everybody would bring sandwiches and or sandwich things.
Right.
Now, technically, the UCB theater has a no eating policy,
Wow.
but
Well, so everybody was just doing like space work and object work, imagining those sandwiches.
no,
Really?
there was a lot of sandwiches being made and raffled off, and I did eat a Coke Zero and pickle sandwich,
I
and
hate that for you.
it
I'm
was
so sorry. That
disgusting.
sounds like some roll for sandwich shit. Have you ever seen roll for sandwich on TikTok?
Yes, I have.
That dude will be like, "Welp, I rolled for my, I rolled fucking like raisin loaf for my bread, and then I've got this Norwegian fermented shark and some pickled eggplant, and I'm gonna top it all off by drenching it in nacho cheese and fruity pebbles."
Ugh.
And then he'll just eat the whole fucking thing and be like, "I'm giving it a 4 out of 10." If that was my job, I would live in hell. I would wake up every day like, fuck, another day.
Speaking of your job, whose opinions are
Oh,
represented?
they are actually, this is interesting. Specifically, they are not reflected in this podcast.
Oh, got it, got it, got it.
Isn't that's wild?
Yeah.
Wild
But
to say.
we were talking a little bit off mic, and then we decided to start the episode to keep talking about
Oh
it because you've been
yes.
writing about Stranger Things season 5, which by the
Yeah,
time
it's
this
come
comes
up
out
a lot
will have
more.
premiered already.
Yeah,
Because I got
yeah.
a couple of the physical media box sets for the first two seasons. Can't get the third and fourth season; they don't exist in physical media
Wow.
um,
Yeah.
yet. Breakout role. Listen, season 4 breakout role for our new Johnny Storm. So
I mean,
Joseph
yeah, that's
Quinn,
true.
and the Duffer Brothers they have to be in the running for an X-Men movie, right?
I've thought about that, but
Somebody has to have
you
at least
know,
floated it to them. They
I'm
clearly
kind
love the
of glad.
X-Men.
Yeah, but I'm kind of glad they're not, because like we've already seen it at this point. You know what I mean? Like we've already seen Stranger Things, and it's not that far off from what
Yeah,
that would probably look like. And also, it's the Thunderbolts guy, like Jake
yeah,
Schreier
yeah.
is.
Which could be cool.
Yeah, I thought Thunderbolts was a great example of like one of those kind of ensemble
Could
movies, and I liked the filmmaking in it.
could the Duffers do New Mutants?
If it wasn't fucking poison.
Anya Taylor-Joy as Magic is good casting.
Oh, and so is what's her name
Stranger
as
Things
Laura.
actor Jonathan, whatever the hell his name
Oh
is,
yeah, there
as
was a good
Cannonball.
cast, and of course Wolfsbane,
Oh yeah,
Maisie Williams.
yeah,
Good cast, good choices. That movie strangely wound up being quite racist, and like they made
yeah.
Ilyana Rasputin very like weirdly nasty, and
Well,
like,
the thing is, she is kind of mean.
but she's not. She says like weird racist
That
shit
is
to
true.
people, and that's the part
She's
that's
like
like,
kind of racist to Sunspot.
yeah, it's just uncool, and it's a boring movie. And apparently, similar thing where Josh Boone, who made like The Fault in Our Stars, everyone was like, "Oh, he'd do great at this," and it just didn't work.
I guess in a way, because based on the way
It was
that
also at the death of the X Men. It was at the death of the X Men
yeah,
franchise, not the cause of it.
the I think the thing is that if you're going to do New Mutants, you have to do uh, Demon Bear, and now they did it, and it wasn't good. And
It's kind of like
also,
Dark Phoenix. They tried to do it like 11 times.
but also too, Demon Bear and Dark Phoenix, they're kind of the plot of the first season of Stranger Things in a way. Like that
Yeah, in
kind of
a way.
idea is the thing that Duffers already
Yeah,
do and have done.
that's true.
So
Well, that's what I'm saying. That show is like manufactured nostalgia bait. Like a lot of what made people like really be excited about it was not was somewhat its own genre, but the fact that it was like in the 80s the kids loved D&D and they wore Ghostbusters outfits, and that's meant to appeal to the lizard brain in people who, to be fair, much like myself in many ways and in many respects for other things still, it's meant to make you go like, oh, Ghostbusters, I wore the Ghostbusters costume, I really understand what it's like to be from Hawkins, Indiana in 1980 fuck or whatever.
the thing is though, I think that the first season also, at least the first season, because the story doesn't have to be more than the first season, right? It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be more than what it is. The first season gets to be a little freaks and geeksy. It gets to be like it's not as like, but the difference is that
The
because it's not
mythos isn't that
right,
expansive
there's no
yet.
mythos really. It's just
Yeah.
kind of riffing and like maybe we'll do more. And like even Vecna ends up becoming like, well, what if one guy was behind everything? And
And
then you're
it's
like,
like, and
okay,
he's named after the D&D villain
yeah.
50 of you know, and you're going to be very excited. Oh, I know that name. There's a lot of that. Like, oh, they called it Blorbo.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I know that from another thing I already like.
Right. Oh, the
I'm going to
Hellfire
say this,
Club, you know.
and yeah, exactly. Which, like, that's cool and all. And, like, I don't have a problem with it. It
But
just doesn't
well,
appeal to me.
it
But
is
I
funny
will
to put it
say,
in the show. The children, the show about roving children, and the Hellfire Club is famously an evil sex club for.
yeah, but also I wouldn't have necessarily. I would have thought of the mutants first when I was about like
True.
15 or whatever, and probably if someone was like, "Do you want to be the Hellfire Club?" I would have been like, "I'll sell my soul today if you can make me feel better,
Yeah,
like
I hear
make
that.
me feel cool." But I will say this: you may have to bleep this entire thing or cut it because what I'm about to say could seriously be controversial to some of our listeners, and I'm not
Okay.
kidding,
Okay.
which is I think Ghostbusters nostalgia is the lowest form of nostalgia.
Oh, that's
I
fine. I
think
think Ghostbusters is bad.
I like the first movie fine.
I
I
think
don't
it's
have the level of nostalgia for the franchise some people do. Actually, when I was a kid, I saw the Ghostbusters cartoon, both cartoons, quite more than anything else. There was the real Ghostbusters, and then there's the version of Ghostbusters that's just called Ghostbusters, which is by Filmation, which is based on
the
a
live action
one
show.
season live
Yeah.
action show with Tracy the Gorilla. The live action show you can find on YouTube on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube, and consider this maybe an early recommendation. It is off the fucking wall. It is beyond. It is psychedelic. Like
But that's also
anyway,
why when they did the animated Ghostbusters show, they had to call it the real Ghostbusters because
right.
there was already a Ghostbusters, which
Well, it's kind of a sleazy story. In a way, it's a very like it's kind of the thing that might happen in the comic industry too, where they were gonna call the movie Ghost Breakers, and then they were like, that sucks. Let's call it Ghostbusters. So they were already had sold it under the name Ghostbusters when Filmation, who owned the rights at that point, was like, "Hey, um,
We
we
own that.
actually own the name Ghostbusters, and you can pay us to use it, but we're gonna have our own cartoon called the Ghostbusters. We're doing it. It's already happening." And they were like, "Well, we'll call ours the real Ghostbusters." And they were like, "We don't care. Ours is weird and fucked up, and kids will
It's a very
remember it as a fever dream."
it's a very black flag, the
Yeah.
original Misfits.
Oh God. Just douche on douche on douche.
Yeah.
Um,
Sublime with Rome.
they're just back to Sublime now because they have Bradley Noel's son.
Oh wow. And Rome is just Rome.
Great. Wasn't
For
built in a day.
What's funny is that he's Rome, formerly of Sublime with Rome.
That sounds like the title of a Star Wars comic. They're all like Star Wars, the Age of Lightsabers, First Wave, the Jedi Continue, Expand, or some shit like that. And it's like there's just so many nested, like it's this part of this era of this story. And it's like, okay, man, well, this is starting to be like somebody's fucking like Blue Sky bio or something.
Yeah, but yes, we're not bleeping the Ghostbusters are the lowest form of fandom because I don't really
It's not even
understand.
fandom. It's the lowest form of nostalgia,
Oh,
where like people who are so tied to the Ghostbusters as their childhood that like they rancidly get fucking freak out about a woman,
it is crazy
some
that we did a
women,
Gamergate about a Ghostbusters movie with women in it.
right? And like so many people I know, so many dudes I know who were making statements like, listen, I'm a feminist, and so I really support the idea of women making a little movie, but they can't have my Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's the most boring shit you could have that opinion about.
Also, I like the 2016 Ghostbusters. I
It's
think it's
fine.
fun.
It's fine.
It is a total like TNT middle of the day flipping through the channels. That
It,
Ghostbusters. Yeah, I'll watch that for like 45 minutes.
the downside I felt about it is that was very like kind of MCUified with the action and
Sure.
shit. It was very, but I don't care. It was fine. When I walked out, I saw it with like people in my family, and we walked out of the theater. Then we were like, that was pretty fun. And I've never watched it since, and I haven't missed it. But I also don't watch Ghostbusters and don't miss it, like the original. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
So
never go back to Ghostbusters. I don't care, even though I love
maybe every
Sigourney
few
Weaver.
years I'll catch part of it or
If
something.
somebody else puts
It's
it
as
on,
someone else puts it on. It's that level of movie for me. But there are people who just get vociferous about it. And I think in some ways it's just one of those things that became weirdly emblematic of like, they don't understand our nostalgia. And the ironic thing is they went back and they were like, well, don't worry, nerds. We're gonna fucking unlady this. We're gonna make it the least queer sci-fi franchise again, and we're gonna put Harold Ramis's ghost in it. How about that? Will that make you fucking happy? Will you little fuckers shut up if we do that? And then they made this, what is it? Ghostbusters Frozen Kingdom,
Frozen Empire.
Ghostbusters generic bullshit. It sounds like a fucking Jurassic Park movie, like Jurassic World, Kingdom of Souls or some shit. Like just the most generic, like there's a prophecy now kind of movie.
There
And
are
like,
5 movies in Ghostbusters now.
yeah, and one of them's pretty good. The rest are a declining series of attempts to recapture the nostalgia of 45 and 50-year-olds and force it on their children. That's
Yeah.
part of what's making me so sick of like, I have nostalgia. Of course I do. I love things, and I'm not opposed to the idea that I get to choose to like buy new Thundercats toys or whatever the fuck.
Oh, I've been getting advertised the new SWAT Cats Kickstarter like every fucking day on
Sure. And
Instagram.
like it's those comics sell right now, and thank God they do for a lot of people's careers, and a lot of great comics are coming out of that trend. It's almost like taking over that
I
like
wish the
sort of
Herculoids one was
superhero.
better.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet, but
Not that good.
hey, enemy of the pod, David Pepos doing a great job with Space Ghost and Speed Racer and all kinds of cool shit. Captain Planet. So, it's a thing.
Yeah.
But the thing that I get sick of is so many kids are being fed their parents' nostalgia and they're supposed to like it, and it's just turning young people off more than it's interesting them. So many kids are like, I don't fucking like movies,
Yeah.
because they only know movies because of their parents forcing them to watch fucking the Phantom Menace or whatever, and like, or from YouTube clips where
Yeah.
they look like shit and make no sense. So I don't blame people for being like, I'm actually tired of this. I don't know if I mentioned this on a previous episode, but like I watched part of I love the 80s and I love the 90s or whatever from
Hmm.
VH1. It was coming up on my
Yeah.
YouTube algorithm, my algo as I like to call it and hate to call it. Um
I like to call it my algae rhythm.
that's perfect. That's actually really good. Algae Rhythm. That is my code name when I was in well, what's that white people band? Color Me Bad. When I
REM.
was in Color Me Bad, when I was in REM. Yep. I mean, I do live in Athens. So I think when you're in Athens at some point everybody gets to play tambourine in REM once. I'm waiting for my turn.
I think you're honorary just by
Yeah,
living
sure.
there. So,
Exactly. I used to live, I think, vaguely in the same neighborhood. So how about that? Um
what's funny about kind of everything that we've talked about is that we talked about Stranger Things. Finn Wolfhard is in Ghostbusters Afterlife.
oh god. And
And
see,
and
they're just being like, he wore a Ghostbusters costume on TV. He's in the movie now. Do you like that? What if we just made those kids the Ghostbusters? Would you like that?
and
This kid's name is Podcast. That's real.
and I talked about seeing Chris Gethard yesterday, and he's in Ghostbusters 2016.
It's
So
all
it's
fucking, they're
all
trying to make it
connected.
all Ghostbusters. And it's like,
Everybody thinks that we're just talking about nothing at the top of these episodes, and true, none of it has to do with Spawn, which is what our show's about.
you want to know what's fucking crazy, Pierce? This episode, these two issues
Have to do
are
with
about
ghosts.
Spawn busting ghosts. That is what we call fabulous synchronicity.
I think that's a great time. It's a great time to get into it.
Absolutely.
Oh my
Pierce,
god.
bust me with those credits.
Oh man.
I ain't afraid of no ghost. I just want to clarify that. I would love to meet
Well,
one.
you ain't
I
afraid of
saw I thought I
one.
saw one once when I was a kid in Massachusetts near Boston.
There was a ghost in the my childhood home. We'll get into it. Hold on.
We'll talk about it. Let's do it because you
Spawn
grew up in the house on Marston Street. That's
Spawn
what's
130. Uh Todd McFarlane Image Comics present. You said you're not afraid of no ghost. How
no.
about 7.5 Ghosts Part 1? Plot by Todd
Shit, that's only
McFarlane.
5.5 ghosts to 13 ghosts.
Plot by Todd McFarlane and Brian Holguin. Story by Brian Holguin. Pencils by Angel Medina. Inks by Danny Miki, Victor Olazaba, Alan Martinez, Crime Lab Studios. Lettering by Tom Warzakowski. Colors by Brian Haberlin. Cover by The King, Greg Capullo. And dedicated to Ron Santo. Ron Santo, the most famous Ron Santo, don't know if this is the specific Ron Santo, was a major
Sounds
league.
like an alias. It sounds like what Paul McCartney would tell people his name was checking into a hotel. It's
He was
under Ron Santo.
He's a Major League Baseball third baseman, played for the Cubs from 1960 to 1973. So he was there for a while. Played for the White Sox. He just went to the other
This
team
is
in
when
Chicago.
baseball players would play until they were 65.
In 1974, and then he retired. So he only played 14 years. He retired when he was 34 years old. So
wow, that's very young.
But then he became a member of the Cubs broadcasting team, provided commentary from 1990 until his death in 2010. Now, this issue comes out in 2003. I have to imagine that Todd just met Ron Santo.
Very possible. I mean,
Through
we know the
baseball
Todd
things.
father loves baseball.
So I think that's the only reason.
Even Geddy Lee.
Yeah, that has to be the only reason that this is dedicated to him. As he is not dead at this point. He is not a ghost himself. And I couldn't find anything important that happened in 2003.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, yeah,
he did die in Scottsdale, Arizona, so I wonder if maybe Todd knew him from, like, the neighborhood?
maybe so.
I don't know.
Maybe so.
His big
Um,
thing was that he was very good at baseball. He batted 300, like 4 times. He also had 90 RBIs. Those are, ribbies.
roast beef, indica which is
Yeah,
just such a
my
good
favorite
strain.
strain.
Yeah.
He's the only third baseman in MLB history to post 8 consecutive seasons with 90 ribbies. But he was
Wow.
a big diabetes advocate because he had diabetes. So,
Well, good that he managed to use his platform for
you
that.
know, we
I almost said good for him, which makes it sound like I you know what then I'm glad he had diabetes. He could do a lot of good as a result.
yeah,
Which that's like the most neocon mindset.
his
Anyway.
he does a juvenile diabetes like walk to cure diabetes every year, goes on in his name since 1979, has raised over $65 million for the juvenile diabetes Foundation. So,
You said 65 million?
yeah,
Fuck. Okay, wow. That's actually a lot of money, if
yeah,
you can believe that. Even still in 2025, that's a significant amount of money.
pretty cool.
Well, I'm legitimately impressed by that. Hey, how about that, Ron Santo?
Yeah,
Congratulations on your records and on your philanthropy.
yeah, pretty cool. So, uh, we open with what we opened the episode with.
That's right. We get a good long look at the house on Marston Street, which is home to 7.5 ghosts. Now, do you know the reference, the house on Marston Street? It was retroactively a reference to me. I'm sure Todd would confirm that now.
Yeah,
No. Do you know the reference
I
though?
didn't, but you pointed it out to me.
Yes, the Marston house, spelled my name like the name of the house in the book, is Marston, as you probably know from the information on the podcast. Uh, the Marston house in the book Salem's Lot by Stephen King is Marsten, Marston House. And it is, in the novel Salem's Lot, a sort of like central haven of darkness that is haunted by the ghosts of a family that was like killed by their family annihilator or something like that. It's been a long time since I even saw Salem's Lot. I think
So
there's a new adaptation. Maybe I'll watch it. Anyway, yeah. So they're obviously channeling that Stephen King reference here. What's extra interesting is that it's in a desolate neighborhood in Boston. Now, I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but I was born just outside of Boston, and I spent the first chunk of my life around the greater, Boston area in the suburbs. And there is like, if you live in Massachusetts or even New England and your last name is Marston, there is like a 99% chance that we are like kin on some level. It's just that kind of name. In England, it's very common. Anyway, it's just funny that it's in Boston because like whoever this is named after in this case would have to be my ancestor, and that would be mean that I am now officially, as again they would confirm, part of this lore. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just tell you the inside perspective on all this, what it was like growing up in the haunted house, what it was like. No, that's obviously that's not even a good joke. Like it's not a bad thing to say. It's just not a funny anyway. Um yeah, sometimes
George is
you have to
riffing,
let
and
him
I'm
out
giving
tired.
them nothing. So
It's tough.
they're
It's tough.
drowning.
It's
They're
tough.
drowning, and
It's
it's my
tough.
fault.
It's really tough. It's tough. Well, it's not Pierce's fault. Pierce was doing their laundry basically through that whole thing.
So
So
we do get it. So the 7.5 ghosts, we're gonna meet them, and
yes,
we they kind of go through it pretty quickly here.
Maggie's the oldest, or she isn't the oldest, but she's lived there the longest. It used to be her house. Her family poisoned her because they thought she had gold. Now she sits upstairs throwing teacups out the window.
Pretty
Honestly,
funny.
exactly the life I hope to live. Um, then there's Peter, who froze to death after he used to hang out, in the house on Marston Street. He froze there. And then there's Sally, a 7-year-old girl whose throat was slit. She never even saw her killer's face. Some of these people, it's implied they died outside of the house in other
And
places,
they
and they just
moved in.
gather here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That is a thing that kind of is pretty clear across it. Like Peter froze to death when he was trapped in his cabin, and then he wandered around and he moved in. We're told that. Baz is the next one. He was an up and coming jazz trumpeter from Macon, Georgia.
Macon, Georgia. Yeah,
So many
that's a city.
connections to you. Uh, and he played the East Coast circuit, was starting to make a name for himself, and then he overdosed on cheap heroin. Okay.
Those are acid bath lyrics. And
Silas
yeah,
was a busboy at a fancy hotel. Uh,
yeah, he was murdered by a racist. So yeah, there's the bus. There's Imelda, who died from complications of terminating a pregnancy. Um,
yeah, there's another ghost that we don't talk about who lives in the cellar.
and then there's Max, none other than Max Williams, Twitch's son. Now, right off the bat, something I noticed is that this doesn't look like the same Max, and I think there's some reasons for that. Like, first off, he's not wearing glasses. He doesn't need them anymore. His hair is like real small, but he looks a little more short and chubby and not as like tall and gangly as he looked in when we saw him before when he was turned into a vampire.
Yeah,
So that's what happened. He was turned into a vampire.
I noticed that. I don't know if Medina just kind of forgot or if it's supposed to represent some of his transformation. You know,
Right.
one of the
I
things
was
that
thinking
he
his hair being all nasty and greasy was probably an effect of like being alone in or alone with ghosts in a haunted house.
yeah.
But it did highlight something for me that I'm going to bring up right at the top, which is we talk a lot about when the art team really nails it. We talk a lot about how Medina is developing his own little tricks and his own kind of forms of language, visual language. But there is a level of inconsistency in like the rendering and the colors and the inking and everything where it starts to feel a little like a gamble issue to issue if you're going to get great art, good art, or passable art. It's never
Hmm.
really bad art by any means. But a lot of it comes down to, maybe too many cooks in the kitchen, but also there's just a lack of like a stylistic language, which is something you might expect at this point.
You know, I think one of the things with this arc is that because it is so referential to the setup of like the Salem's Lot thing,
Mm-hmm.
it just feels kind of tossed off. Like it, I hate to say rushed because we don't know the internal workings of McFarlane Productions in 2003.
They might, I mean, look, they had to have known this was coming, so maybe the details, but like, yeah, no, it's not the most inspired thing. It's very similar to the setup for the house here, as we'll get into. It's very similar to Murder House, the first season of American Horror Story,
Hmm.
which, if you ever saw it or never, it's about a family that moves into a house that's populated by ghosts that are determined to get them to die and join them in the house. So, not the first time that trope was used, obviously, because
Yeah.
we're looking at it here in Spawn. But even this isn't the first time that trope was used. There are elements here of like the Amityville horror, which was also kind of, inspirational to aspects of like many other stories and, of course, its own film series. So, these are kind of worn tropes and it doesn't feel that interesting. There are some cool parts. So what's
Y-
happening now
I
is, oh, go
think,
ahead.
sorry, I think the other thing that's part of that is that so much of the story is told through captions that
Yes,
it feels like kind of overwhelming. I think like I get that we're in Max's head and we're supposed to understand a little bit about what's going on with him.
right.
And
I think the narration in the second issue is interesting,
yeah,
but it's essentially all narrative captions
yeah,
recapping like Max's
it
experience,
makes the action, even though there is action, feel so secondary to the text. And so there's a little bit of a disconnect there.
which
Um,
is a little rare for Holguin at this point. he's become a little better at sort of like connecting dialogue and using dialogue as connective tissue rather than just shoving everything in captions or even just shoving a lot of captions on the page.
Yeah.
A good example is this next scene, just en route to Boston. It's Twitch and Al, who was shot at the end of the last issue by Twitch. He's okay apparently, even though the Al version of him is injured. Something that is different than usual. Usually, Spawn would heal his injuries or sustain them without too much damage, like when he used to
Right.
have a hole in his chest basically all the time. um so they're just kind of making small talk, and he's just Twitch is like, sorry I shot you, and I was like, it's all right, and he's kind of like, so you're alive again, and I was like, yep. And they're kind of talking about Al's plan to sort of bring Max back to Twitch, bring him back to life,
Yeah.
which Spawn is like, I owe you that much. That was what he said at the end of the previous issue.
Yeah. So they have a compass that's made from 3 drops of Twitch's blood, hair from his son's head, and a needle made from a lodestone. And they show this. I don't think I don't think the art's great here. It just kind of looks like a mess. Um,
Yeah, yeah, it
and
sure does.
and Twitch is like, this Nyx person, she seemed nice, you trust her. The dialogue here is not really inspired. It does feel a little bit like filler. This stuff's like, eh,
It's not bad. It's better than a lot of the caption heavy pages, I
sure, but
think.
it's
It's very
also,
bantery.
but
It's something that I think would work better maybe if it was being spoken, because
I agree.
it would,
It would
there's
have
just a
the
rapid fire
patter.
kind of
Yeah.
pacing. Yeah.
Um,
Something I noticed right now that's interesting to me is the vampire. I forgot the vampire that turned Max into a vampire was named Dawn. Of course, that's the sunrise.
right.
And then Nyx is the name of the witch who brought Al back to life. And Nyx is, of course, I think it's Greek for night. Or maybe is it Greek or Latin? Give me 1 second.
I googled it. It's a professional
Yes,
makeup
it's Greek.
company.
It is Greek. It is Greek. She's the goddess of
Yeah, the goddess of
the
night.
Greek goddess of the night. Yes. For a second, I got a little confused because of like the Latin for night is similar in etymology. Anyway, that's boring as fuck. I'll just say this: I wrote a story today about Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey because he shot almost 400 miles of film
Hell yeah. Can't wait.
and also spent 4 months filming on the ocean, which is like notoriously the most difficult and like expensive process. It basically destroyed Kevin Costner's career. Waterworld. It's true. And I wrote this story today where I was talking about that and then just talking about the history of Greece and sailing and why the open sea is daunting to ancient Greeks who would have stuck mostly to the
What did you
coastline.
write? Some sort of rhyme of the ancient mariner?
Well, that would have been hundreds of years, if not 1,000 years later. That would have been anyway. Um, that is a great poem and a great Iron Maiden song. The Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner.
My buddy used to have a post-hardcore band called Curse the Mariner
Great
because of that. Good
because of the
post-hardcore.
because of Ken Griffey Jr.
Yes, not a fan.
So, but the reason that they would have stuck close to the shoreline and that open ocean travel was very difficult was because it was almost impossible to accurately determine your latitude
Mm.
on Earth, or longitude. I'm sorry, longitude. Um, because latitude you can track by stars, but longitude you have to have an instrument, which wasn't developed until something like the 1760s.
Hmm.
So there you go. There you have it. Isn't that interesting? I wrote all that in my article about a movie.
You're having a really interesting time lately with
Interesting.
your
It's very
assignments.
interesting.
Uh,
Fascinating.
so Al and Twitch have this like little small talk on the bus. Again, it doesn't.
I do kind of like Al's punchline. Go ahead.
The reason that I don't like it is because uh, it's just them talking about things that we saw already.
It's
It's not.
very recappy.
I know that Twitch didn't see it, so like it's fine.
It's
He
very recappy. You're right
Yeah.
about that. Like we're on that round number issue as well, 130, and so I'm sure they want to catch people up. It's a more elegant way of doing that, but it does have that kind of like when the Netflix show every line of dialogue is exposition or
Yeah.
something. Anyway, I do like Al's little punchline. It's very edge lord, where Twitch is like, "You trust Nyx," and Al says, "Pretty much. She's good to me, helping me figure things out." On the other hand, the first night I met her, she cut my chest open and sewed my shadow onto my heart, which is like, first off, very MCR. The first night I met her, she cut open my chest and sewed my shadow onto my heart. Is what it sounds like to me.
Great. You have 2 weeks to write that song, and
Okay.
I'll input it right there. Uh,
Well,
eh,
also there is a reference to MCR in this, which is really interesting. Where I think it's in issue 2, where they talk about the formation of MCR. We'll
yeah,
get
well, we'll
there.
get there.
I had to Google what it meant.
The next scene we see Sam is still back at the police station doing his job and doesn't know where Twitch has gone because Twitch since the dissolution of
He
his
technically
marriage.
kidnapped Al.
Yeah. Since the dissolution of his marriage, though, and his son becoming a vampire and sort of dying, he's become pretty rough around the edges. And
He's become a real loose cannon.
yeah, he and Sam's relationship is pretty strained. But Sam, good guy Sam, still sticking by his buddy. He doesn't sell him out here. The commissioner kind of comes in, the captain kind of comes in, is like, there's been another one of those Wanda murders. We saw this with Jason Wynn
Yeah.
in the last arc where
Jason Wynn committing
he
murders
keeps hiring
of women
escorts.
who look like Wanda Maximoff.
No.
No, Wanda Blake, of course. Wanda
And
Fitzgerald.
he is sent to go investigate it, and he's just kind of like, fuck, man, where is Twitch? Like, what do I do? Back at the Marston house,
This is what it's
Max.
like in the Marston house right now.
Back at the
Just talking to a
Marston
little
house,
child ghost.
Sally, the little child ghost, comes to see Max, who Max feels like life is slipping away from him. He's not colored the
This
same as the rest of the ghosts, which is supposed to let us know that he's still
this
kind of on
picture
our
of his
mortal plane.
face does not land. It
No.
look I don't even know. He looks like Toad from X-Men. He looks very different.
Yeah,
Just not a great rendering here, and I think it's, maybe it did have to get out the door. But yeah, the little ghost child is like, "I don't remember much of my life. Did you have brothers and sisters?" And Max is like, "Yeah." And she's like, "I was an only child. That's why I like it here, because I don't have to be alone." And then she starts taunting him, being like, "By the way, I have a gun." And Max is like, "What the fuck are you doing with a gun? You're a 7-year-old ghost." And she's like, I know you can't hurt yourself with it, but maybe if there's someone you love and you get them to come here, you can hurt them."
well,
And it's,
Max has the gun.
does he? I thought she said.
N-
Oh, okay. Well, let's
It's
redo that.
okay. So to I'm going to say this: love Tom Warzakowski. Not my
You
favorite
know
lettering
what it
job
is? Yes, you know what it is that it looks kind of like that bottom bubble.
is
Um,
pointing at Max.
it almost looks like the bubbles are traded, and then the hands are all pale. They're all kind of the same color.
Yeah,
And also the way Max's face here, where he says it's just a gun, uh,
kind
it
of looks like
looks,
her.
it does. It's
So
hard to tell because it's just a sliver of his face. So good. You can leave it in because that is actually kind of an issue of the visual storytelling
yeah,
here.
it's not great.
The colors do not really do much to differentiate on this page. Not the best I've seen. Anyway, she's like, well, now that she's holding the gun, she's like, "You could maybe use this to kill anyone you love if they come here." And he's like, I don't know about that." Meanwhile, in lovely scenic Boston, Massachusetts,
A wild panel of a close
uh,
up on the compass that they created with strands of hair. That if you don't remember
yes,
that from a couple of issues ago or a couple
it,
pages ago, you're just gonna be like, "What the hell is this?" It's such a weird perspective.
the panel looks like art you'd see on like one of those mall stores that sells just like endless framed paintings of nothing.
Yeah,
Um, the or like someone's like high school art project of just like a clock and a face, and it's a weird, yeah. Anyway, um, they're cutting across the trash-ridden fuckhole streets of Boston.
where there's a broken Captain America shield apparently.
Yep. Well, that's where Liberty died. And yeah, when they added socialist healthcare, um, they run into some Boston punks, probably the guys from GBH,
Yep.
and they all have there's like a guy's a literal pinhead, and he's like, uh, "Hey, you folks need a little help," taunting Al and Twitch, and
Twitch just pulls a gun on them as like, "I'm a
yeah,
cop."
they ask him
Like,
for donations. They try to shake him down for money. And Cop goes, "You little idiot. I'm a goddamn cop." Or Twitch says this. "You know I have the right to execute you on the spot for acting like that." Which, no, you fucking don't, big dude. Like, he just asked you for money. You don't get to shoot. This is like the beginning of cop psychosis, which is
the
actually
next
the
the
beginning
next
of cop.
panel, like Al says, "Relax, they're just kids." That's what
And
it
then he
has to
says,
be, but it
"The
looks
same
like
age as my
but
boy."
it looks like it's coming from Twitch.
Yeah.
It's
It's
not
again
Orzakowski, again, it does feel a little bit like
not necessarily his fault here because he can't have it come from Al based on where
unless he
Al is
blocks
positioned in the
Twitch.
panel.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
it's not great.
it's bad. Yeah, it's not great composition. Uh but like Twitch is ready to like fucking absolutely mangle this kid for nothing. And again, we know that he's at the end of his rope. He's absolutely frayed because of the loss of his son,
Yeah.
essentially. And he's been pushed to the brink. He did take Al at gunpoint and like hold him hostage until Al became Spawn and was like, "Look, I'll help you get your son back by magic." Which is where we are now. So they finally arrive at the house on Marston Street. They walk inside. As they're walking in, a teacup comes out the window. We know that's the
Pretty
old
fun.
lady in the attic. I like that. But they get inside, and the big lumberjack guy who froze to death is like, "You're trespassing. Go now." And there's this kind of. I kind of like the coloring on here where it's like very blue in most of the panels. The shit brown background could be better, but I like the blue in contrast with the
The red from his
red.
cape, yeah,
Yeah, the
and his
red of
gauntlets.
Spawn, and I like the image of Spawn punching through the ghost. And he's, Twitch is saying, "I've come for my son. Is Max here?" And Spawn is now fighting a ghost. He's busting a ghost who has a lumberjack axe. He's basically Paul Bunyan. And Spawn grabs his axe with the chain. They're tussling. Max finally realizes someone's downstairs, just as his father is grabbed by the ghost, whose like icy death touch like sends Twitch into shock. Spawn in turn grabs the ghost. I love the 1-2 punch of Spawn reaching his arm back and gathering the energy and then like just fucking slapping the taste out of
I
the ghost's
love
face.
also that he realizes, I like the panel of his fist kind of going through the ghost,
Mm-hmm.
and then him realizing without him kind of kvetching about it, like he just is like, "Oh right, magic stuff. I'll do that," and just does
Right.
it, which is cool. And the green
Which
is
we
a
know
nice
Spawn
touch.
can do that. We don't
Yeah.
need to have Spawn. We don't need to Stan Lee it and have him be like, "With the use of my powers, I can."
With the
And
focused
also I
totality of
do,
my
yeah, I
demon
love the
powers.
rendering here. The blues and greens
Yeah,
work really well,
really
and
cool.
I love the page of the ghost with his face all like engulfed in energy where he's like screaming, and Spawn is
Yeah.
like, "Felt that, didn't
I
you?"
do think the pacing in this whole section is really good. Like,
Yes, this part works really well.
there's a we're gonna get into a lot of, like, double page spreads across these issues, and this
Yes.
is the first part of it, but the double page spreads really do make it feel like, "Oh, fuck," like, there's, like, urgency to this scene, and especially too as, like, you said, Twitch is kind of reeling from the touch of the ghost as we're getting this close up of the cellar door thumping. Something's behind it and it's trying to get out. It's that ghost that we haven't seen as, Twitch is finally reunited with his son. It's really cool. All the ghosts come out. The big lumberjack says the boy stays. The house belongs to us, but we belong to the house. He cannot leave. There are rules, which is a thing that I love. I love when there are
Yeah.
rules in this comic, but
I love rules.
Spawn,
Um,
Spawn, one of the sickest spawns that Angel Medina has
oh,
ever
I
drawn.
love this panel of Spawn gathering his energy and going, "Damn your rules, he comes with us." Meanwhile, importantly, as Spawn is having this confrontation with these gathering ghosts, Max is tending to his father, who is saying, like, "You're my son. I've come to take you home." And Max is saying, "You don't know what I've become. I can't leave." And Twitch saying, "I don't care. We'll find a way." So Spawn is like, "Damn your rules. He comes with us." An incredibly kick-ass Spawn
So
panel.
cool.
A lot of the inking on, especially that previous double page spread and the colors, and a lot of the way like Spawn is being handled, it's a very like Scott Collins
Hmm.
esque
Also
kind of
closer to what
feel to
we've
it a lot
seen
of the.
from Chance Wolf in the past.
Yeah,
I
no,
know
it's
we definitely invoke Chance Wolf a bunch because he did a lot of our favorite inking.
Well,
But
that's the thing, is that when this is all working together on the pages where it is working together, it's great. The art, the line work, the script, it's all coming together in a really, at least very readable and engaging way.
I'm so curious to know what the pencils look like and if some of the
Yeah,
inkers just can't get it done the way that
yeah,
some of the other ones can. That if, I do think that there are panels where I'm like, oh, this just looks like Greg Capullo. And I'm like, that's a Danny
yeah,
Miki page, probably.
right. So as this confrontation is unfolding and Max is tending to his father and Spawn is facing off the ghosts, there's a thump, thump, thump coming from that closed basement where
Yep.
something lurks. And the little girl, the 7-year-old ghost, who is now carrying the gun, which is another reason I thought she had it to begin
Yeah.
with, because I'm
She
like,
gets it in that
uh,
scene weirdly or
yes, she takes
whatever.
it from him. She comes down and she's like, "If you can't leave, why don't you invite him to stay? It'll be easy, just like we talked about." She should. "If you can't leave, why don't you invite him to stay? I'm played by Natasha Lyonne." Did you hear that they're canceling Poker
But they're
Face?
going to bring it back with
Uh,
Peter Dinklage in
Peter
the same
Dinklage,
role.
which, yeah, interesting. And then they said they'll change it every 2 seasons, which is kind of interesting.
Okay.
But also, I dropped out of that show in the second season because, first off, she's just a narc traveling around the country being like, "I gotta get involved in this and narc on this guy to the cops, who I never find out are lying." Uh, but also,
Yeah.
there was an episode in the second
Did you
season.
finish the second season?
No, fuck no.
Oh,
I
it's
got to
I
the
watched it. It
episode.
was fine.
I'm sure it's fine. I got to an episode. I think it's this episode with the class pet.
Mm.
Uh, and in like within 1 minute of the episode starting, or like showing the classroom, I turned to my partner and I was like, "Here's beat by beat what's about to happen in this episode." That's exactly what happened. And I was like, I can't watch this fucking old lady sell out a kid or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's all bad. It's a nihilistic propaganda show. Anyway,
I mean, listen, Natasha Lyonne loves AI, so
I I know. It's not great. Uh
anyway, Sally comes down these stairs. She's got the gun. She's like, "Listen, you could be my dad too if you wanted. You could stay in the house forever." The meanwhile, like this is where the pacing is actually kind of fun. Like it's pretty um like
yeah.
these panels are pretty dynamic. They're really quick cuts, so we're kind of cutting from that to the cellar door thumping open. It's starting to break open.
The tension is starting to build really
Yeah,
rapidly as these moments you can almost feel. It almost feels like a 28 days later kind of thing, where it's like you're jumping from perspective to perspective to get all these different parts of this unfolding tension. And then what should happen? But Sally shoots Twitch, which is now look, this is true. More people are shot by child ghosts in America every year than in all of Europe put together,
That's true. That is
than
true.
any gun deaths.
Yeah.
Like it is true that more people in America are shot by dogs than are shot in some entire countries.
Really?
Yes, every year.
Wow.
People who have a lot of fucking rowdy dogs also it turns out have a lot of
Loose guns.
undisciplined loose guns. Yes, absolutely. So
Well, she fires, and we get a to be continued. We don't know what's going to happen, but we can assume. And that will lead us to issue
spot
131.
number 131. Hit me with those credits. Do it.
I will. Todd McFarlane Image Comics presents 7.5 Ghosts Part 2. And it has all
Eight and
the
a half ghosts.
and it has all the same credits. It's dedicated to Susie Thomas, who I forgot to look up.
Wow.
Probably Dave
And of course,
Thomas's
that
wife.
half ghost is Max, is the implication.
Right. Did we not say that already? I feel like we did, but it's fine.
We alluded to it.
Susie Thomas does public relations at McFarlane Toys.
Well, there you go.
So that's who this is about.
Seems like she's
Seemingly
been
to
there
this
for some
day, found
time.
her LinkedIn. So,
Hell yeah. Well, good for her. Part of the team.
yep. So just yeah, we're gonna open right where we left off, and it's another very very narration heavy kind of sequence. I actually do
I
really kind of like this page. It's
the
weird, but
coloring on Sally there looks a lot like the weird kids from Akira.
yeah.
The psychic kids from Akira. I will say this. There are so many fucking kick-ass Spawn pages that if I had the resources and the means to put them on my wall, I'd fucking love to. The one that I think I maybe could afford that I could seek out is this page of a child ghost shooting someone from a point blank perspective because it really is very funny to me. All the child ghosts in Boston do carry guns, so look out. Oh, I didn't tell my ghost story before, which I will now at the top of this issue because let me tell you, we're going to breeze through this a little bit. It's a
It's a
big
lot of
fight
double page
issue
spreads, a lot of
with
fighting.
a lot of captions about Max's emotions, which is interesting. But so when I was a little kid, I was used to drive around Massachusetts
As a
with my
little kid,
dad.
they let you drive?
Yeah, absolutely. My dad would let me drive around. No, I would ride around Massachusetts with my dad, who was driving as an adult. I did get really upset with him one time because we stopped at a gas station and got like root beers or something, and he was drinking his root beer while driving, and I was like, "You can't drink and drive," like because I didn't know what a fucking beer was. It wasn't that it was root beer. I just thought you can drink anything and drive,
I
and
mean,
it
it's
showed
not
me that wasn't the case.
yeah, I mean, it's not a great idea.
No. Anyway, he also used to steer with his knee a lot.
I feel like all
Um,
dads do that.
that is such a dad move.
Yeah.
Like when you get old enough to be like when you get true dad level, they just let you do it.
Yeah.
It's in the
Can't
law.
get arrested for it.
We went to this tavern. I forget the name of it. It's in Ashland, Massachusetts. It's known as the most haunted tavern in Massachusetts. I know like ghost hunters went to it years and years ago. Anyway, I still believe this happened to me. I believed it at the time. I believe it now. I don't know that it means anything and I don't have an explanation. The bathroom was like down a hall, like down a flight of stairs or whatever. I went down there by myself into the bathroom and I was standing at the urinal. It was a multi-person facility. I was standing at the urinal. I was probably 8 years old. And there was a mirror, right? Over the top of the
Yeah,
urinals.
yeah, yeah.
So like you're looking at your face.
Yeah. So you can
And I
know if somebody
looked up,
sneaks up on you.
yeah, with a gun or a knife or a noose or a garrote. And I was doing what you do, and I looked up, and there was no one else in the bathroom, but standing at a urinal, not, but standing in front of a urinal, like 3 urinals down, was just an old man, just like looking at me with like shabby old clothes, and I like it was in the mirror, and so I just like did a double take, and when I looked, there was no one there. So just that's my one ghost story, and it could have been anything. Could have been a trick of the light. Could have been I wanted to see a ghost, but I remember it vividly.
In
Anyway,
When I was growing up in my parents' house that they still live in, uh, we got the house because the woman who owned it passed, and my
mm,
grandma used to take care of her. She would like go to her house every day.
now you need to add in the like ba ba.
I just add in the Twin Peaks theme. Um,
Yeah,
uh, we'll get taken down for that probably.
yeah.
Anyway, my grandma took care of this woman, this old woman, and she passed. And
R.I.P. to one
my
of the greats.
my room growing up was her bedroom. And when I would go downstairs in the middle of the night, you go downstairs, get water or whatever, right?
Yeah,
Um, in the corner of the living room, I have multiple times seen a woman standing like in a dress. And she would do
wow.
nothing. She would just stand there, and I saw her multiple times, and she never like motioned to me. She never said anything. She never did anything weird. But I just knew that she kind of stayed in the house. And eventually I got to the point, like I saw her so many times that like eventually I was kind of like, yep, ghost, got it. Cool. Okay. Like
Yeah,
moving on.
yeah,
Always in the same
yeah.
spot, always just standing there. And that was it. Very
Yeah.
much believe in ghosts. I think they're real.
I choose to believe in the paranormal. I think that, there's probably an explanation for most of the things that people experience that they can't explain. But I also think that that's not much fun. And also that the limits of the human mind have no boundary. And so, what's the difference between belief and understanding? And what's the difference between observation and belief? And at what point does observation become belief? And at what point does belief become observation? There's a theory of chaos magic called the galaxy mind theory. I think that's what it's called, or you know, um, cyber mind, the cyber mind theory, which is that the human brain and its neurons reflect a map of the entire, like if you could see the entire universe, it would just look like a human brain.
Hmm.
And so the way you tap into your potential as a wizard is by reflecting your brain's desires and patterns onto the universe and vice versa. So how about that?
Question for you about ghost stories in general. Not to
Okay.
totally change gears, but before we get into the issue too much, ghost stories are pretty tough in every medium, I'd
Yeah.
say. Like, they're kind of tough to do in movies effectively. They kind of work in like short stories or prose, but even
There are
still,
great examples of ghost stories. I mean, there's a reason ghost stories are so popular and so universal
sure. But do you think
because
that
they're a form of memory,
but
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 also
do you think a comic can do them really effectively? Because like take this story for instance, it kind of rushes us through the ghost part, and then they're just kind of beings. Like we get one punch through the head that doesn't land, and besides
right.
that, Spawn figures out how to interact with them, and they interact with the real world in a very like normal way. They don't. They're not haunting the characters. They're just sort of attacking them.
In a way, this is a lot like The Frighteners. Have you seen that
Yeah.
movie? Great movie.
Yeah.
Peter Jackson, of course, movie that made him finally able to do Lord of the Rings. Um,
Crazy jump, but awesome.
well, it's because of Weta
Yeah.
and the visual effects. Anyway, fucking The Frighteners, yes, sorry, which is about like ghost fights and trying to attack ghosts, and it has a lot more like consistent rules, and it shows off more of that like ghostliness. We saw some of that maybe a little more effectively with Billy Kincaid as he was possessing people.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, there's only so many ways to do a ghost story in a comic that really lands in the way that, say, maybe a cinematic ghost story can land,
Yeah.
or even a prose ghost story. Because, like, okay, if you're envisioning it yourself because you're reading prose, you're reaching the limit of what your mind makes you afraid of. You know what I mean? When you are saying, when you're reading a ghost story and it describes like a terrifying sight, your mind creates that for you. When you see it in a movie, usually there is an effort, or on a TV show or whatever, there is usually an effort to have a very visible physical separation between the living and the dead, especially in terms of ghosts, you know?
Is the better way to do this story now? It couldn't be 2 issues, the way that I'm going to pitch it, or it could be, but it
Okay.
would be paced a little. It'd be paced a lot differently. It'd be extremely focused on Max, and it would be Max getting to Marston House and the ghosts slowly revealing themselves to him as he becomes more ghostly and can maybe perceive them better as he gets kind of closer to their realm, and that he discovers, like, maybe the first he meets Sally first and she introduces him to, like, he gets there, they do the teacup thing and he's like, what the
I
fuck.
don't, I'm glad you said that. Now, I don't always love criticism that amounts to like,
This is what I would do.
I
Yeah.
wish it was a different story. But I think the point that I definitely agree with and that I was thinking about when I was reading this was we never really got Max's story in the interim.
No.
We got him becoming a vampire and being cursed to eternal night, and now we're
Disappearing.
getting his, rescue. It would have been interesting, even just one issue, to see like his journey, what happened to him, how did he get to Boston, Oh, I don't exactly remember, did he get on a bus, or it doesn't matter, he
Just
fled
kind of
town somehow.
disappears. Yeah.
It
Ye
would have been interesting to get some insight into how Max went from the person we last saw him as to this person, and how he wound up in a house of 7.5
yeah,
ghosts.
and
So,
that's kinda what I'm saying is, like, I think that, again, I don't like to say rushed, and I agree with you, I do not like criticism that amounts to, like, "Why didn't they do this? They should have done this," right? Like, because there's a million different factors that we're not keen to and
and
aware
also
of.
we're just, have their own creative
Right,
minds.
exactly. But I do feel like, because of the nature of the story, feeling a little bit kind of tossed off, a little bit like, I don't know, do some, we want to get,
Right. Do the ghost family. It's one of those things where you can kind of see the threads they're pulling together for this.
yeah.
Little
I think that you
poltergeist.
could have focused so heavily on Max and the ghost aspect that could have been, that you still could have ended up with the big Spawn fight in the second issue. You actually probably could have done it in 2 issues. The first issue just wouldn't really have much Spawn, which
Right.
tough for a book called Spawn.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think that that's the sort of, they're trying to serve 2 masters there, where they're like, well,
Even
the
even if they had done a thing where we could have seen like Twitch and Al searching for him intercut with like his journey, it doesn't
you
matter.
know,
I think we want more depth with what happened to Max
I
is the point.
I think in the previous arc, if some of the story, if the C plot there could have been a little bit about Max and his
Yeah,
journey up to
a few
Boston.
check-ins.
Yeah, like, I know that we've gotten on the book in the past for being like, you don't need to check in with every character. Don't worry, they're just doing stuff in the
But if
background.
it's building to something specific
Right. If you're doing
that's already been
the
established in the story,
C plot becomes, A plot
right,
becomes C plot, becomes B plot, becomes A plot,
right,
which we want to
which
see.
it's come back to being a plot. I missed a little bit of that in between, so I think that's the point. Well, anyway, this child ghost shoots Twitch, and there's this moment where Max is immediately like, "Oh fuck." And it says, I suddenly remember what it's like to be alive, to be filled with fear and despair, and there's nothing, and to know there's nothing you can do to change things. It's horrible. So like Twitch is saying like he's laying on the ground bleeding out, and he's trying to tell Max like, take my life force so you can live. He's saying, he's calling out to Al to please save his son. Meanwhile, who should appear but the creature from the basement? It busts out, and it is a very sort of like weird chain bearing, almost Fleabiac esque like creepy
It
demon with
kind of
this
has,
like
like, every element of every villain we've seen so far. It has, like,
yeah,
a monkey arm, and it has, like,
yeah, like
Fleabag
three
stuff
like
and big
yeah, he's
teeth
got the
and
weird air like eyeball stalks or whatever. Anyway, it's fine.
yeah,
Um,
it's fine.
and Max is having a hard time. He's saying like, I'm useless, I'm hopeless, we deserve to be dead. He's having a tough time. But he's trying. Spawn is trying to get Max to take Twitch away from the fight. Spawn and this demon are having a big battle, and it's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's cool.
He's saying like, "Hellspawn, a soldier of hell. These are my prizes." And Spawn says like, he says, "If I don't wish to part with them, what shall you do?" And Spawn says, "I'll rip off your limbs and beat you with
Pretty
them."
fun.
Pretty good. They're fighting chain to chain at this point because the demon has that big long chain, and the demon's taunting him, basically saying like, you're a useless thing. Everything you touch turned to ashes. And it's kind of intercut with like narrative of Max being like, I'm useless. Everything I touch turned to ashes. It turns to ashes, and so there's this parallel that's being built where this narration almost applies to
Both of them.
Sam or to Spawn, to Max, and even a little bit to
Yeah,
Twitch,
totally.
where these are emotions they're all kind of feeling. You know what I mean? Exactly. And that's an interesting writing conceit. I think it works. I also think that it is a little heavy. I get that this is a fight comic primarily and a big fight issue,
Yeah.
and most of the pages are dedicated to that. But it gets a little weighted. And so Twitch is dying. He's trying to get Max to like take his life force, his blood, I guess, as a
That
vampire.
part's a little unclear. It's like, how do you know how to do that? I don't know what you're trying to do. I understood
I
what he
think
was
he's maybe just
saying.
begging for it. I
Yeah.
don't think he's like knows what to do
I guess at
necessarily. I
this
think he's
point,
just like
also supernatural stuff exists, so he's like, maybe I can save
he's
my son.
making it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Spawn does rip
Uh,
off this ghost's arm, which is funny, and
beat him with it.
and the
Yep.
ghost is like, you shouldn't have done that. And I like these panels; they're pretty fun. I like the close up of the two weird eyes,
Yeah.
super cool. And he like kicks him, punches him. Who knows? We got Spawn's one big boot going flying.
Yep. And there's a lot of like them just throwing each other through walls. This is like a very rough and tumble fight, and you can almost see how the demon, which looks like a big ball of limbs in a way, it's
Yeah.
got arms and legs in all directions. You can see how it's almost like pinwheeling around with Spawn and like throwing him. It's a very visually dynamic fight. I
Sometimes
like
legs are
it.
arms and arms are legs, and it's cool. Yeah.
There's chains flying everywhere, capes. There's this double page spread of him like choke slamming Spawn or something. It's pretty good. The ghosts are flying around in the chains. The demon is just taunting Spawn. He says, "How many defeats will it take till you stay in your grave? How much more pain can you bear before you snap like a twig? We have an eternity to find out." And which I just that's too just love those captions.
Yeah.
Just great demon talk. And Spawn's like, "You want pain, you want despair? Fine, go back to hell," and busts in a
Uppercuts him.
big haymaker, uppercuts him, and the chains go flying. There's plasms blasting everywhere, and then he says, "You're not welcome here." So
This
as
this kind of opens up this sort of portal slash
right, which
sinkhole.
the door wherever the basement was,
Yeah.
very poltergeisty.
Hmm.
If you've ever, it's very Simpsons, Treehouse of Horror
Yeah.
1.
Oh wow.
Uh,
Yeah.
the house kills itself instead of deciding to let the Simpsons live in it. But yeah, all the ghosts are being sucked into the basement. Um, Meanwhile, Spawn uses his cape to shield Twitch and Max.
Yeah. And really,
As
everything's
the
getting sucked into this hole. Like the house is getting sucked in. The ghosts are getting sucked in. Everything.
including the half a ghost that counts as Max.
Yeah.
Max remains, but he is rejuvenated back to life. And Spawn says, "Forget Holocausts and lunatics, flying planes and buildings. You can see hell in the small things," in the captions. And I just was like, wow, even then they were into MCR. I
uh,
had to look up what that meant. Yeah, Twitch is dying as Max is brought back to life. It's not like an exchange of life force. Uh, Max's like ghost dead side is sucked into the death portal. Sure, fine, whatever. It's magic.
yeah,
Anything can happen. And Al magically removes the bullet from Twitch and seals up the wound just as he's about to die, leaving him and Max both alive and the house on Marston Street reduced to cinders.
yeah. I fucking Twitch keeps getting shot,
He does.
and he
He
keeps getting
does.
brought back
He's
to
a
life by
bullet magnet. Well, that's why in my mind, I was
yeah,
remembering when he was killed. Anyway, so they have this big reunion in the hospital where they're playing, I guess it's Sorry, which,
oh yeah,
fun game. And, really great if you want to get in a fight with your cousin.
yeah. And the whole family's back together here, even his wife and his other kids.
Sam's there.
Sam's there in like a tracksuit kind of situation, which is fun. And the narration here, this is where the narration's like kind of fun, and I'm like, yes, this was like a very special episode.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so it's Max saying, I guess maybe I should take back what I said about God. Maybe he does work in mysterious ways. That's a pretty lousy excuse for letting people down most of the time, but still, sometimes things do work out for the best. The good guys win. The hero saves the day. Sometimes it feels so good to be home again with the people you love and who love you. They hold on to you so tight, you can't help but smile. Questions and confrontations can wait till later. Things feel so right. It pushes all the pain and doubt so far away, you can't even remember why you were afraid in the first place. And you feel so safe and warm that you can't imagine anything bad happening ever again. It may not be heaven, but it's a pretty good start.
I did, when I read that, read it to myself in Daniel Stern's voice, like the end of The Wonder Years.
Yeah, that does work. It
It's a
absolutely works.
very sitcom wrap up, like, well, anyway, there we go. 2 issues of Spawn in the can.
Yeah, and
And, do we have any back matter?
no, not
Not
this
today?
week. They're
Well,
fine.
that's fine.
They're fine.
Yeah. Well, since we're doing it, final thoughts?
It's fine. I think like
Yeah.
sure, you wanted to make Twitch whole again. Hopefully he's on the road to redemption with his family and his kind
Right.
of situation. I do think it's a little bit of probably wanting Twitch to get back to his original sort of he's the straight-laced guy to Sam being the like we don't even follow up
You
on
can only
these issues don't even follow up on Sam investigating that Wanda murder. That
yet.
just we get one
Yeah.
page of that and that's it. Which is fine. Again, I think
Just to let us know there's more of them happening. And honestly, that's really all it needed.
sure,
You know,
sure.
I don't mind to check in with Sam also because that's kind of
That's
Twitch's
like
other
yeah, his
side.
guy.
The other side of his, yeah,
So
it's his dynamic duo. So yeah, yeah,
I think I hate the lettering on the captions, and that was a big part of it. There's also a ton of them. I don't think that Medina. I think that it's not Medina's fault, right? He's working off of they work Marvel style, right? So he's working off of a summary
yeah, a
and
plot.
not dialogue, and then but then he delivers art that requires Holguin to be like, okay, fuck, well, all right, here's what I have to put
I
in
mean,
here.
that's the thing though, is that's one of the double-edged swords, pun and somewhat intended, of a fight comic
Yeah.
is if you want. We've talked about this with different interview. Rob Duenas, I believe we talked about it with, where he was saying he wants to read a comic. You want to get your money's
Yeah.
worth. You want to get the prose, the
You want
dialogue.
words.
You want words, which I don't personally want too many words.
Sure.
And I often am like, oh, I love the art on this sequence. I don't even need the words. But I think sometimes when you are a writer, you get those pages of like, okay, this is a fight comic. This is what we decided to do. The fuck am I actually going to write?
Yeah. Right, and, I know that the silent issue type thing has become more of a thing over the last, 15 years. We get those, it feels like you get one in every run in superhero comics.
Divisive though among certain, divisive among writers I know, divisive among fans I know.
Yeah,
So it's I personally really enjoy a minimal text sequence when it's done really well
agreed.
and it's the best way to tell the story.
Mm.
um I also sometimes read stuff and I'm like, any context would be fucking sick.
I think that the reason this feels very, I'm not gonna say overwritten, it just feels written, in terms of how many captions and stuff there
Right,
are,
right.
is that, like, Holguin wants to communicate a lot of interiority about Max that isn't in the art. So you
Right.
get just a lot of feelings that in a movie works pretty well as a voiceover, right? Can be kind of in the music swelling during the fight scene where the rest of the sound drops out maybe.
Time works a little differently in a visual media, in a moving visual medium.
Right, and it doesn't work exactly the same in comics, and so these are fine issues. I'm not, like, wowed by them. They're not the worst. I'm happy that the Williams family seems to be on the road to recovery.
Yeah, I like the happy ending just fine. Uh Again, I would have liked a little more of that, distance between point A and point B, like that journey. But I like the happy ending, and it has its moments. The fight is cool. The art throughout is there are some inconsistencies, especially in the first issue, but it has really great moments, and it has some great Spawn moments as well. Him being like, "Damn your rules!" That panel is so fun.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. So, before we go, George, uh, do you have any recommendations for our listeners this week?
Mm. Get into some, this is a little ironic because I was going to say this before we even started the podcast, but before we were recording, you mentioned getting more into physical media, and I was going to say try and engage with something on that level. Just watch a DVD, even read a book, draw something, just engage with some level of physical media, you know what I mean? Like, try to do a little less streaming, try to be a little more hands-on and tangible with the things that you have in your life, and enjoy those things as things that you can own, because it's getting harder and harder to actually just own things and to have them be yours and be able to use them as and when you see fit.
Hell yeah.
So take a little power for yourself back that way.
Totally. Mine,
I know that's a consumerist thing to say, but even just a book, just a fucking
yeah.
book.
I mean, listen, but you and I are both collectors of many things, so we're
Right.
a big fan of having bits and baubles around, Get some
Right.
baubles.
Yeah.
Get
A few
Yeah.
bits.
My recommendation is similar. It's similar to ones I've had in the past, but get to know your neighbors.
Yeah.
One thing that I was really talking to my parents about today, well, I hung out with my parents all day, and just to do some clerical work, essentially. And one of the things that I said to them was that, I grew up kind of a latchkey kid. My parents were very like, hey, like, it's the summer, get the fuck out of the house.
Yeah. Same.
See you when the streetlights come on. And we
Yeah.
kind of don't care what you do, just like don't be stupid. And
Yeah. Don't get in any trouble and don't get hurt.
yeah, but the other thing was that, like, you know, um I feel like I ended up learning a lot of life skills because my parents were able to just, like, I had like a little landscaping business. So I knew all the people on my block because I mowed their lawns, and like that's how I made money. And like that was my, like, I had to send them an invoice
Oh,
and
you really
whatever.
did pull yourself up by your bootstraps, dude.
Yeah, I mean, but also too, like, then you just knew everybody on the block. So if something happened, like, you knew who you were talking to, or it those things were kind of instilled in me at a very young age, so that when I got older, it wasn't weird to, like, send 1,000 emails so that I could try to book a tour, to
Right.
try to like live at somebody's house for a night because we're on tour or whatever, you know. So, you know, I think in this like kind of more digital age where people are, I think, a little bit more guarded and a little bit more private, despite the fact that we have social media that puts everything that we do out there for everybody to see. Um, get to know your neighbors.
Yeah.
I think it's really
Yeah.
important. So, anyway, if you like the show, please rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. Really, really, really helps. We don't do ads, obviously, so word of mouth is really, really important. And goes a long way. Just tell another comics fan, another Spawn fan. If there's something you want us to cover that we haven't covered yet, let us know. You can email us at spawnographypod@gmail.com. Thank you all so much for listening. And George, for Todd so loved the world.
He gave his only begotten spawn.
See you later, Hellspawn.
Spawnography!
Spawnography is recorded in Athens, Georgia, and Queens, New York. It's produced by me, Pierce Lyden. Our theme music and logo were composed by George Marston. Episodes come out every Monday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like the show, please rate, review, subscribe. You can find us on social media at Spawnography or at SpawnographyPod. If you'd like to reach out to us directly, you can do so at spawnographypod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and until next time, see you later, Hellspawn.